The film begins in pitch darkness, accompanied only by the sound of a radio reporting shocking news. The world is in terror after the emergence of apex predator creatures that surfaced from underground. These creatures are called Rippers, and they are known for brutally attacking humans. The origin of the Rippers remains a mystery, but their impact is clear. Within just 2 months, they have massacred 95% of the human population on Earth. Interestingly, Rippers cannot attack humans at altitudes above 80,000 feet above sea level. As a result, survivors take refuge on mountaintops and hills to stay alive. The story then jumps to 3 years after the incident, specifically in the Rocky Mountains, Colorado. Here, we meet a boy named Hunter who is searching for medicinal plants at an altitude of about 7,770 feet. However, during his search, Hunter suddenly sees a glowing red light in the distance, a sign of a Ripper's presence. Panicking, Hunter quickly runs toward the hilltop, with the Ripper chasing him from behind. Fortunately, Hunter manages to reach the safe zone at 8,000 feet, about 348 meters, just in time before the Ripper can catch him. Hunter then returns to his home, a small community on the hilltop called The Land. There, Hunter lives with his father, Will, while his mother passed away 2 years earlier. Upon learning that Hunter almost became a Ripper's prey, Will scolds him and warns him not to leave the safe zone again. He also reminds Hunter that he has lung issues, making strenuous activities like running very dangerous for his health. After reprimanding Hunter, Will goes deer hunting with his friend, Katie. During the hunt, Katie suggests that Will shouldn't be too strict with Hunter, as she feels Hunter needs some freedom, even if it's just around the hilltop. However, Will rejects the idea and reveals that Hunter wasn't actually looking for medicinal plants, but had gone to the place where his mother was killed by a Ripper. On the way home with their hunt, Will sees his neighbor, Nina, who spends every day trying to create special bullets capable of piercing Ripper skin. It turns out that Rippers have incredibly tough skin, even stronger than bulletproof steel. This is why militaries worldwide failed to defeat the Rippers. Even weapons like rockets and grenades are ineffective against them. The story continues to show how humanity struggles to fight these nearly invincible creatures while trying to survive in a world that has turned into a living hell. At night, the situation turns chaotic when Hunter suddenly has a seizure due to lack of oxygen. Will quickly grabs the last spare oxygen filter they have. After managing to calm Hunter down, Will begins to worry, knowing the only way to get a new filter is to descend the mountain to Boulder, a city about 2 miles away. The next morning, which happens to be Hunter's birthday, Will visits a grocery store run by one of the survivors. There, he trades 2 kilograms of potatoes for a box of macaroni and cheese, Hunter's favorite food. When he gets home, Will starts cooking the macaroni as a simple birthday gift for his son. During dinner, Hunter asks why the residents of each hilltop don't communicate with each other using radios. Will explains that radios are only used in emergencies to save electricity. Instead, they use flags to send messages between hills. However, that night turns chaotic again when Hunter's condition worsens, and the oxygen filter is completely depleted. Left with no choice, Will injects a sedative to help Hunter rest. After making sure Hunter is stable, Will goes to see Nina, their neighbor, to inform her about his plan to descend the mountain to get an oxygen filter. Nina immediately doubts Will's idea, knowing the route he would take is full of dangers. However, Will remains determined and insists that Nina join him, reasoning that she still has a moral obligation. After Will left, Nina began crafting a special compass that could detect the presence of Rippers, a precaution in case she decided to join the mission. The next morning, Will entrusted Hunter to a neighbor before preparing to start his journey. Before leaving, he stopped by the weapons store to purchase an assault rifle. Although Rippers are immune to bullets, Will believed the rifle could slow them down and give him a chance to escape if things got dire. As Will was getting ready, Katie arrived, offering to join him on the dangerous mission. Initially, Will refused because he didn't want to put anyone else at such great risk. However, after Katie kept insisting, he finally relented and allowed her to come along. Now the perilous journey to find an oxygen filter began, with the constant threat of Rippers lurking at every step. Before leaving, Will knelt in front of Hunter, calming him down while promising that he would return safely. After that, Will, Katie, and Nina started their journey, leaving behind the settlement that had been their haven. At the border, Nina explained something unique about the Rippers. She told them that these creatures emit bioelectromagnetic pulses as they move, which was why she had created the special compass to detect their presence. With this tool in hand, they continued their descent until they reached a site with 2 abandoned military vehicles. There, Will found signal flares and a grenade launcher, while Nina discovered a Ripper scale that appeared to have fallen off when the creature attacked the military team. These discoveries confirmed that Rippers were truly near-invincible creatures. Their journey then led them into a forest, where they stumbled upon a herd of wild horses roaming freely. This surprised them, as it suggested that Rippers don't attack animals. Humans were their only targets. The 3 eventually arrived at an old abandoned cable car station. They decided to use the cable car to reach the mine more quickly. However, just as Will started the cable car, Nina's compass suddenly detected movement around them. Sure enough, from behind the pine trees a ripper emerged, appearing to observe them. Will quickly climbed into the lift to activate the cable car, while Katie, panicking, chose to run uphill toward the safe zone at 8,000 feet. In her panic, Katie fired several grenades at the ripper, but the explosions had no effect on the creature. After the cable car powered up, Will and Nina quickly climbed into a seat. Meanwhile, Katie tried to climb one of the poles to avoid the ripper. Will and Nina kept urging Katie to jump onto the seat, and though hesitant at first, Katie finally leapt. However, she missed, forcing Will to hold onto her tightly to keep her from falling. Fortunately, before the ripper could get closer, they reached the 8,000-foot altitude. Unfortunately, their relief was short-lived. The ripper suddenly leapt up and grabbed the cable, causing all three of them to crash to the ground. Without wasting any time, they sprinted as fast as they could toward the border. Gasping for air, they barely made it to the safe zone just before the ripper could reach Katie. That night, they decided to spend the night in the long-abandoned cable car restaurant. While lighting a small fire to stay warm, Nina voiced a question that had been troubling her for a long time. Nina explained that when the rippers first appeared, they wiped out 95% of the human population in just 2 months. Yet strangely, rippers never ate the humans they killed. Even more bizarre, these creatures never attacked animals, whether small or large. Why only humans? Nina asked, looking at the others with a serious expression. Is it possible that these rippers were created by God to eradicate us? The next day, Will, Nina, and Katie continued their journey and eventually arrived at the Kelway mine. This mine was the main route they would use to reach the city. However, before entering, Will finally admitted to the others that the tunnels had no iron walls. Hearing this, Nina was furious. She knew that underground areas were the natural habitat of rippers, and to make matters worse, her custom compass would be useless down there. Despite her frustration, Will reassured Nina and Katie that this route was still the safest option. Reluctantly, the three of them began descending into the tunnels. However, after walking about 100 meters, they discovered that the main tunnel had been permanently sealed. This forced them to take a lower path to tunnel level 7, meaning they had to descend over 8,000 feet underground. They carefully descended the stairs and eventually reached level 7. However, an eerie atmosphere began to settle as strange sounds echoed in the distance. Quickly, they turned off their lights to figure out the source of the noise. In the darkness, they saw it. A ripper lurking in the shadows. Without hesitation, the three of them ran as fast as they could, the sound of the ripper's footsteps echoing as it pursued them. Unfortunately, the end of the tunnel was still far away, and they were forced to hide in a small crevice in the tunnel wall. Their breaths were held as the ripper's tail began probing the crevice where they were hiding. The tension mounted as their air ran thin. Finally, Will threw a flare to distract the ripper. Seeing an opportunity, Katie spotted a small hole leading to a crevice on the other side. However, when Katie tried to squeeze through, she moved too hastily and accidentally broke through the wall, sending her straight into the main tunnel. In seconds, the ripper pounced on Katie. Will tried to save her, but he was too late. Katie was taken by the ripper, leaving Will and Nina in despair. In the dire situation, Nina discovered an emergency ladder. She quickly urged Will to climb, and the two of them eventually found their way out of the cave. After exiting the mine, they continued their journey northward. After walking for quite a while, they arrived at an old house with one car that still seemed functional. Since it was late at night, they decided to spend the night in the house. Inside the house, Will found several boxes of macaroni, Hunter's favorite food. The discovery reignited his determination to complete the mission of obtaining the oxygen filter. While enjoying the macaroni, Nina proposed a deal to Will. Nina asked Will to accompany her to her old laboratory after they retrieved the filter. It turned out that Nina was a scientist and physicist. She explained that her lab contained chemicals that could potentially be used to create special bullets capable of destroying rippers. At first, Will flatly refused. However, Nina firmly stated that if they didn't find a way to exploit the ripper's weaknesses, all the remaining humans would eventually perish. Reluctantly, Will agreed to help Nina. The next day, Will and Nina used the car they found to continue their journey to the city. Their destination was Boulder Hospital, a place they hoped still had the much-needed oxygen filters. When they arrived, they went straight to the storage room. Unfortunately, the room was empty. There were no oxygen filters to be found. Even so, Will refused to give up. He decided to check the operating room and finally found some oxygen filter bags inside a cabinet. However, their relief was short-lived. A ripper suddenly appeared and attacked them. With its large claws swinging wildly, Will and Nina had to move quickly to dodge. The situation grew more tense as they found themselves cornered in one part of the room. In that critical moment, Will noticed an oxygen tank that could easily explode. He quickly took a bold step, shooting the tank just as the ripper leaped toward him. The massive explosion sent the ripper flying, giving them time to escape. Will and Nina immediately headed to Nina's laboratory, but behind their relief, the Ripper that had been blasted away slowly began to rise again. When they arrived at the lab, Nina quickly got to work mixing chemicals she believed could be used as a weapon against the Ripper. Meanwhile, Will stood guard near the window, making sure no danger approached. While waiting, Will saw a family photo of Nina. He was shocked to learn that Nina had once had a family, who had all been slaughtered by Rippers. In a quiet but emotional voice, Nina revealed that she had never told anyone about her family. Their loss was the main reason she was so determined to find a way to kill the Rippers, to avenge them, and save humanity. After the chemicals were mixed, Nina coated the tip of a bullet with the solution, but when the bullet was fired at the Ripper's scales, the result was disappointing. The bullet still couldn't penetrate the creature's tough armor. Even so, Nina refused to give up. Nina asked Will to return to the mountains to find Hunter, while she stayed in the laboratory to continue her experiments. Although hesitant, Will eventually agreed and set off in the car. At the lab, Nina tried mixing other materials, but none of them worked. As she sat in despair, her eyes landed on a rechargeable battery. From that, a new idea emerged. Nina decided to combine a chemical base of maxinium with cobalt. She quickly began formulating the new mixture. However, while Nina was busy mixing the materials, another Ripper managed to break into the laboratory. The scene shifted to Will, who was driving on a mountain road. Unfortunately, his car skidded after one of the tires burst, leaving him trapped in a dangerous situation. After regaining consciousness from the crash, Will heard the terrifying sounds of approaching Rippers in the distance. Without wasting time, he grabbed his bag and ran as fast as he could toward the border, the only place he considered safe. Just as he was about to reach the safe zone, a Ripper suddenly appeared from the shadows, blocking his path. Panicked and desperate, Will began firing at the creature, but his efforts seemed futile. As Will was about to give up, Nina suddenly appeared out of nowhere, carrying her new bullets. Without hesitation, Nina fired one of the bullets at the Ripper, and in an instant, the creature exploded into fragments. Not stopping there, Nina continued taking out the remaining Rippers, turning the once tense atmosphere into one of relief. After all the Rippers were destroyed, Will noticed something strange about their bodies. He discovered that the inside of the Rippers contained some kind of complex mechanism, a shocking confirmation that these monsters were actually robots designed to kill humans. Confused and curious, Will asked Nina who might have created and sent these creatures. Calmly, Nina replied that the monsters were sent by aliens, a reality that was hard to accept but made sense amidst the chaos they had been through. The two then returned to their shelter. There, Nina raised a pirate flag as a symbol of victory and an announcement that she had discovered a way to defeat the Rippers. The next day, Will and Nina began the mass production of cobalt-coated bullets that had proven effective. Not only that, they used the radio to broadcast information about the bullet composition to other survivors so that everyone could start fighting the Rippers with the same weapons. With the new weapons, Will and the other survivors began descending from the mountains and confronting the Rippers with confidence. Nina's bullets gave them the advantage they had been lacking, and within a few weeks, they managed to reclaim territories previously taken over by the Rippers. The film ends with a scene of Nina and Will standing side by side, gazing at the star-filled night sky.